All right, all you.
Oh, all right, what's up, YouTube? This is Mike Rowe coming again from Policy and Number Games Publishing. I got another edition of this Concrete and Steel Chronicles. I'm doing an interview with Dirty Weather 916. Most of y'all probably already know who he is. He got a real popping channel, do a lot of live interactive stuff. So today we're gonna be talking to Dirty Weather about his 17 years inside of California prison system. So all right, brother Dirty.
What's happening, y'all? Dirty Weather here, man. Subscribe to that channel, Dirty Weather 916 at YouTube. We keep it popping over there. We keep it lit. We keep it knowledgeable. We keep it interesting. We go by our own. We go by our own movement, our own wave over there in the Dirty Nation. So if you haven't subscribed, check me out. It's Dirty Weather 916. So Michael Rowe, man, what we getting into today? What did you want to know about today, man?
So today we're gonna rap about some of your experiences in the Cali system. Like last time we rapped and it kind of got cut off, you were telling me about the time the brothers got into it with the Norteños over a soccer game.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna start from the beginning because this is a classic because it's people that's involved that one of them for sure I'm gonna be interviewing him real soon, but he was involved in this particular incident. But see the way Solano is back then. Solano was a violent ass prison. I'm talking about all lockdowns every 90 days, lockdowns. So what happened is this particular lockdown with the Northerners, and Northerners are supposed to be our folks. Like they're supposed to be tight with us at this time. We not knowing that it can really go bad like this because we haven't heard like of constant black and Northerner clash in any other prison in CDC. Maybe like High Desert, I heard of it, but this is like '05. So this is unheard of. So what happened is the homies they had a soccer game. It was the blacks. It was the blacks against the Northerners, soccer, right? And soccer, if you ever watch soccer, like that shit be getting physical. Like you've seen that shit before, Mike? Like that shit soccer get physical. I watch females play soccer and they be like, even the females is like about that soccer. But anyhow, so the homie G and the Northerner, they get into it, right? Like they're having words. They ain't really said nothing. I mean, they ain't really went there yet, but it's building up. It's building up. And then next thing you know, after one argument, then you start thinking, okay, all right, well, fuck it then. So the next thing you know, this nigga G, let me tell you about G. G, this dude was one of them people. He looked like he was small, but when he pulled his shirt off, he looked like a chiseled rock lord. I remember one time you could probably knock on his bicep. You could probably knock on that motherfucker and hear something. That's how solid he was. But man, he must have hit that Northerner and he must have went down like timber. After he went down timber, it was on and cracking, right?
Okay.
So, and then while this was going on, and there's Northerners that know about this stuff too. I wouldn't be surprised if one tapped in. But while this is going on, the gym, the gym is connected to the yard. This is the 2 yard in Solano. Like the gym is connected to it, so they probably got about 200-300 inmates in this gym. But most of them are outside on the yard. But there's blacks that was in the gym while this riot was going on. They was beating up Northerners that was in the gym, but the Northerners were outnumbered. They're always damn near outnumbered. So what happened is the blacks, after they did what they did in the gym, they started going and stealing. They was going in Northerners' lockers and stealing their cell phones, their jeans, their cell phones, their jeans, personal property, thrashing their stuff out of pocket. But all is fair in war, right? Y'all didn't took off. We didn't took off. It's on. There's no rules. It's mayhem, right? So when the Northerners started finding out that their shit was stolen, you know that shit is cool. That shit ain't cool because people, moms, aunties, and everything, they didn't buy this for these people, and then so when we went on lockdown, they was talking about. I mean, we talking about peace. Blacks, I hate to say it, Mike, and I know you know, but shit, blacks always want peace, always. So they agreed. All right, yeah, it's cool. But then they came off a lockdown. And when they come off a lockdown, you know, Northerners got this thing where they don't be walking by themselves. It's either 2 or 3, mandatory. Like they don't walk by themselves. But they got packs this day. They walking in packs, and you see, I forget what the Crip name was from. He was from Stockton though. He walking around the yard. He got their jeans on. He got their jeans on. He belling. I mean, creased up. But this is not his stuff. They got, man, it's blacks walking around with Northerner shoes on. Man, it's not. And so regardless of what the peace terms was, just think if you negotiating peace and somebody wearing some shoes that your grandmama sent you with her hard earned money, and he looking at you like what? Man, it don't even matter what rules is what rules. That's my shit. So it kicked right back off. So that was round 2. The third round was we tried to go for peace, and it kicked right back off again over in front of 11 building in a dust pile. So this is going on. This is going on over a period of months now. They in like the 6th, 7th month of this riot. So then that's when I pull up. And you know what? People talk about the 48 laws of power and all that. Okay, so there was a period of my life where I was big on that. Like Robert Greene, I was big on that. And in a level 4 environment where all you have is time and nothing else but to read and analyze and study that and internalize, is different from when you on the streets and you reading Robert Greene and you got hella shit going on. When you in prison and you read this book, it can sometimes become your life. So that was my mind frame. I was on a 48 laws of power, but in a good way, because the word manipulation gets a bad rap off top. When really all a manipulator is a person that curves the circumstances to better fit him. So that's not always a bad thing. Like you come to a yard and you have to adapt. And you have to adapt and get things to work the way you want them to work for you. Everybody else is doing it, but some just don't admit it. Anyhow, it's 48 laws of power mind frame. So I come into a war. This is a war. I didn't start this war, and I'm just a part of it now. And it's bad for business. So the homie that had the line, his name is V. Just we're gonna call him V. Remember that. So I'm in 11 building, right? And I'm down the tier from the homie Taz. And the homie Taz got these neighbors. They Northanians. But the Northanians are on lockdown because they refuse the program. So therefore the blacks is out, but they on lockdown. They might get like one day to come out. We might get a day to come out. They might do it like that. So and the cells are connected. In Solano, you can literally stand on a sink and look into your neighbor's cell. And so that means if your cell is smoking weed or cigarettes or you smoking, then your neighbors is going to be able to smell it, because you have to block your door. Like block your door, trap all the smoke in the cell, so then it gets sucked through the vent. And when it gets sucked through the vent, your neighbors can smell it. So what the Northerners was doing is they was over there burning plastic. They was making knives, and the smell from that plastic, that shit is hella toxic. Like it's like black smoke. It's enough smoke when you burn it down. Like I'm giving you an example. Okay, we'll use this water bottle right here. If you melt the bottle, it's gonna turn into a plastic blob. It's gonna turn to a plastic blob. But once it turns into that blob, you take it and you roll it. You roll it like this. And then that blob turns into like a stick. And then you roll it on the ground, and that's how you get your knives. But the smoke from it, like you can literally look at the smoke go up in the cell, and you can see the black smoke on the roof of the cell. That's how bad it is. So anyhow, the smoke get in Taz's cell. So when they open Taz's door, he go to them Northanians like, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but he was like, man, y'all burning that motherfucking plastic in there, and it's getting hard for me to breathe. I can't breathe. Man, y'all need to cut that shit out. But they, instead of saying, all right, they took the knife and put it on the window, was like, yeah, this night for your bitch ass when we come off a lockdown, stab your bitch ass, right? The homie start going crazy. Ah, he yelling and shit. He got all emotional, like, you know, basically like somebody said they gonna kill you. So he just, he going crazy. So anyhow, that incident happened. So now we're getting close to we're trying to negotiate peace. Now we're trying to come off lockdown because this shit is cutting our time in. We go in the yard hella late because they feed the blacks first, then they got to go to work, then they got to feed the northerners while everybody's locked down. And by the time they get done, the northerners and shit, we get about an hour a yard. We get about an hour a yard. And then it's cutting into our night yard too. So when we come out of the night yard, we coming out, we getting like 30 minutes a yard, 45 minutes a yard because of this lockdown situation. So anyhow, man, so hold on. So anyhow, man, we trying to negotiate peace. So what happens is what happens is I start talking to V. Remember the name V?
Yeah.
I start talking to him like I'm going from my building to his building to sit in his cell and smoke some weed and talk about how we gonna get peace, like how we're gonna get to the next step, how are we gonna do this. And we came with a blueprint, like because I remember 48 laws of power mind frame. We come with a blueprint. All right, we're gonna orchestrate peace. Period. And then he tells me the Norteños say that they're gonna they're gonna get rid of their folks, the ones that told Taz we're gonna stab your bitch ass. They said we're gonna get rid of our folks that said that. Yeah, good deal. That's a real solid step toward peace. Like y'all getting rid of y'all folks that talk crazy to our folks. That's a real solid step toward peace. So what ended up happening is, so we have a meeting, right? And we have a meeting in Sacramento. We thick in this prison. We hella thick. So it's like I would say at least like 30 homies in this meeting, and this particular car is hella young homies too, hella young, working out, active ass homies, right? And some have been here for all of the riots, and some just pulled up, and some come from level fours like me with all the business. So what ends up happening is we sitting around talking. Half the homies is like, man, fuck that shit, man. Ain't no peace. Fuck that shit, man. The hell no. I don't trust them because they didn't already snuck the blacks like 2-3 times already. So and it was to the point where the SAC car was about to get into it with each other. Like we was about to get into it with each other because of the ones that wanted peace and the ones that still wanted war. And you know what? I was on the side of peace. I was on the side of peace. But there's a such thing as the whole story, right? So what happened is we came from the meeting, right? Where the homies that wasn't with it, they was like, we need to just take off. As soon as the doors crack, we need to just get off and just, it is what it is. That was the one half. And the other half was play the defense and if they cool, we cool. So the day is getting closer to where the Norteños gotta come off a lockdown, right? Next thing you know, bam, they start opening the doors in 7 building. That's where the Norteños was gonna come off. And it just so happens that V is in the first row of the doors that are gonna get opened. The A section lower. They about to get their doors cracked. Bam. 2 Northerners come out the cell and they like and V, he think he cool. He done orchestrated peace. He gotta be confident. Like man, you should have seen this shit. He walked up to the Northerner, right? Shook his hand. And when he shook the Northerner's hand, he embraced him like, give me a real hug, and pulled him in and like really embraced him. Man, look here. His celly came from behind him with the blade and hit him. Hit him. He didn't know what the fuck was happening. After that,
Wait a minute, who gets V gets
huh?
Who gets there?
Yeah, V got sliced up. He got sliced up. But the funny part is all the blacks didn't trust him. V was the only one that had it, like he was too comfortable. So all the blacks, like the porters that was out in the day room, they was all sitting to the side, wait. They waiting. And as soon as they started slicing V, I'm talking about, it was probably about 15, 16 blacks in that day room and probably about 4 or 5 northerners. Man, it went all bad for them. It went all bad. I'm talking about they was using crutches, wheelchairs, everything they could use in that day room. And technically, so this is how the police knew they fucked up. They knew they fucked up because they shouldn't have allowed them northerners to come out the cell like that after they gave their word that they wasn't gonna do nothing. They was mad. So, man, right after that happened, they clear the blood. They put the blacks in the chow hall. They put the northerners to the hole. They let all the blacks come back, even though it cracked off in that day room. They let all the blacks come back. So then what happened is I ain't gonna lie, they ran in every North Daniel cell on that yard. I'm talking about they took a whole day to run up in every northerner cell, flip their cells upside down, and some of them got physical because they had stuff up in there for protection. Some of them altercations got physical, but it was all because the police was mad that they let them off, and that happened. Now it's Solano. The aftermath of that, though, how it ended. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what. I don't even know how that beef ended because I ended up getting transferred up out of there. That's how long that beef went on. From the whole time I was in that prison, it never got cool with the Northerners on the 2 yard in Solano.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So something else, that was a heavy story. But something else I want to ask you about that I always hear. Explain to me the significance of paperwork in the Cali system. I mean, what's that all about? I hear everybody from Cali talk about if your paperwork ain't right, it's bad for you.
So with the paperwork thing is this, say you was on another yard or something. Say you was on another yard and all of a sudden you just disappear from that yard and you pop up on this yard. That's not normal off top. So that means either you got beat up over there, they found out something about you, or you just was, or wait, beat up, a kite got dropped on you. That's 3 things. You got beat up, somebody found out something about you, and you decided to try to do a move before they got you, or a kite got dropped on you, or something like that. Or you can go to the hole and come back out to another yard. So there's a lot of different variables that can have that you could have done. So what happens is they give you the paperwork that they get out the hole with, and you look at it. And if it ain't cool, then you're gonna have to go. That person's gonna have to go again. And
Okay,
then your crimes, like with your crimes, what you come in for, that stuff that's all in your paperwork. So they be looking for things like sex offenses, snitching, shit like that. That'll stand out because that is the code out here. And what I notice is that state to state, the codes be different. Like the codes be different. Like how you wondering about paperwork. That's all I know. All I know is paperwork. Because I was raised in the system. So
right.
it amazes me that on the East Coast they don't speak as much as on paperwork.
Exactly. So say I'm coming to the pen, and so as soon as I hit the yard, I gotta go to that particular shot caller, show him my paperwork in order to stay on that yard.
In California,
Yeah.
when I hit a yard, most people know who I am, but
Mm.
I ain't shit. Most people know who I am, but if they want it, you gotta have it on deck. Like if they want your paperwork, they may or may not want it because it depends what you affiliated with. Like if you
Okay.
just come in and you ain't connected with nobody or nothing, then who the hell gonna ask you for your paperwork? But if you a Crib, a Blood, a Bay Area, a Mob, a San Bernardino, if you part of a car, then that's when you might get an order to show cause. But like if a person came in and he was just a black man, all he gotta do is just not tell his business, and he ain't got to worry about it. But gang members, constant scrutiny, like you better have your shit together because everybody know everything. Like when I hit a yard, everybody know, like especially on level 4 or level 3, everybody already know who I was. Everybody because I was never like a person that stayed to my car. Like I branched out. Like I wanted to meet people from everywhere and basically build bridges. That was always me from growing up. So yeah, that's how I know.
Okay. And then I also understand that paperwork. They go to doggy, okay. And I also understand that paperwork can mean something else. Like there's like it's called being under paperwork, like with the bloodline or UBNs. Can you
Yeah,
explain that?
yeah. You said which ones did you say? UBN, Bloodline. What's
Like,
the other one?
like UBN, CCO, Blue Notes.
Yeah, them is Crip. That's Crip paperwork. And I
Mm,
spoke on that on one of my videos called Cut. That's like CCO's Blue Notes. That's CCO's is Compton, and
okay.
Blue Notes was from everywhere, but CCO's is Compton, and then UBN and BLs that them is homies, and I respect them, and like I know like the top 10 BLs that was there from like in '84, like
Mm.
like I ain't gonna say their names, but the top 10 that was there in '84, I've met at least 6 of them. And as far as like the UBNs, I met like 3 of the top ones. Rest in peace, Chicken. But three of the top ones that and hey, I was never one that got under paperwork. That wasn't for me. And my city like pushed the agenda to where like we from here, we from Sacramento, we don't do that. So I never indulged in that type of stuff. But them is homies, and I have been on the side fighting in riots between with BLs and UBNs because it don't matter if you a blood when it go down against the opposition.
So those UBNs, I mean, is that like it's just strictly a prison thing, or talk a little bit more about that? I mean, are
Uh,
they bloods
UBN
from different states?
Nah, UBN's changed. Like it's different. Like you got people in Atlanta and New York, and they UBN is slightly different from the UBN like out here. Like out here, UBN is a prison gang. Like if you
Okay.
you go to anybody from the Sacramento car in prison and say, "Are you UBN?" He gonna be like, Nigga, I'm not cut. Nigga, I don't know what the fuck is that." But if you go to the East Coast and you say UBN, I mean, that's like a blood nation out there. That's a conglomerate, a whole nation. But out here in the West, UBN is a prison game to me. That's to me though. And they may have like I have heard of people claiming BL on the streets, so therefore it might be people claiming UBN on the streets out and down in Southern California. But up north, they know UBN or nothing like that.
Okay. Okay. Now, something else I wanted to ask you about. I've heard that sometimes a city affiliation can outweigh the gang affiliation. Like for example, let me ask you this: say if you in the joint and something go down, and between like a Crip from Sacramento and the Blood from LA, who's your allegiance more so to like Crip from Sacramento or just that Blood because you still a Blood?
It depends. It depends what they got over it, what they got into it over with. Because first of all, that's still a one-on-one right there. What you just said, that's a
Okay.
one-on-one fight. So one-on-one, if it could be my homie that's a blood from my city, and he fighting the LA blood. That's a homie on homie. That's domestic right there. So I'm not in that. I mean, I ain't gonna let him jump the homie, but one-on-one, that's between two men.
But what if it starts getting bigger, where more of the Crips get into it, more of the Sac Crips get into it, more of the LA Bloods get into it? Then do you take side with your city or you take side with your gang?
It still boils down to what they got into it with because you don't never want to. That's a scenario that you like me. That's a scenario that I would hope never had to play out. To be honest with you, because that's never really happened. That's like that's the conspiracy theory. I know you probably want an answer on that, but I do know this. Like Sacramento Crips, if they from Sacramento and they a Crip and they pushing it, then I have to have they back. Like that's my city. I have to have they back. But times are different now. Times are different. The politics are different in Sacramento, and there's a whole new like that's old in a sense. That's old because now Crips and Bloods are intermingled in Sacramento. Like you got like how they got cliques now in Sacramento. You can have a
Mm.
Blood and a Crip from the same clique, or they can be pushing for the same cause. Like Bloods and Crips is pushing for the same cause in certain parts of my city. So Therefore, that way of thinking for me is kind of outdated. But in a sense, it was before its time. If you think about it, if that's what it is now, back then, that standpoint that I took, and people that my elders from 916 that decided the politics that I would follow, if I followed them, then the people like me that followed what they set laid the foundation for how it is now, where everybody can put I'm a blood, you a Crip, and then put all that to the side and push for whatever causes they push it for.
Okay, that's what's up. Okay. Now, something else I want to ask you about. Okay, the big four prison gangs, MA, NF, BGF, and AB. Have you ever actually seen members from those groups, or they all just still housed away in the SHU?
Nah, they let a lot of them out the shoes. They let most of them. Matter of fact, they let most, if not all of them, out the SHU, except for the high ones.
Okay, we back on?
I'm here, my bad. See, that's the thing about Skype. When they call, somebody calls, it holds the call. All right, so where was we at?
So you was telling me, so you were saying they let most of those big four prison gangs out the SHU?
Yeah. There was a hunger strike back in the days where all the inmates, most of them took part in. I think I told you about it, where blacks was helping whites was helping blacks, Mexicans was helping everybody because of the people that was getting indeterminate shoes and getting forgot about. So the mainline inmates took a stance and did a hunger strike. And then what that in turn did is push legislation, and a lot of them got kicked. A lot of them got kicked out the shoes. But when they hit the lines, you just don't never know who they are. Like in Mexican, like MA, you wouldn't know MA if you was looking at him in his face. You wouldn't know. He looked like another South Side. You wouldn't know. And then the ABs, like you can probably look at their tattoos and tell, but for the most part, you wouldn't know. And then if he was an AB, you still wouldn't know what type of ranking he held. He might look like a regular white boy because AB's got white boys that look like regular square white boys, like the what's that movie called? What's that movie? I forget the name of the movie, but the regular white dude that went at shot caller, like shot caller. Yeah, like a regular white. They got regular white dudes like that, but whole rank. So therefore, you never see. And then like BGF, I mean, you don't really see them like that. They're there, but you don't see them like that. And then Kumi, but there was a time. Let me get it straight. There was a time when you used to hit the yard. Like when I first came to prison, BGS was the thickest, and then all of a sudden it went like this. It shifted, and now Kumi became like the deepest on every yard you pretty much went to.
Okay. Now another subject.
Then with Kumi, I had the pleasure of meeting Mousy Brown.
Okay. He was the one who originated the Kumis, right?
He was one of the originators of Kumi. Yes, he died in prison.
Okay, that's what's up. Okay.
Mousy Brown had a lot of kids too. But I met him in Old Folsom. I think he died. Mousy died about a year or two after I met him.
Okay. Now, something else I want to ask about the blacks and the Southsiders. Now, a lot of times when I'm hearing people talk about this prison experience, they talk about, the riots they had with the Southsiders, and it's usually Southsiders, at least from their account, the Southsiders on the winning side. I mean, now I hear that the Southsiders outnumber the blacks, but in your experience, have you ever been in riots where the brothers came out on top against the Southsiders?
Yeah. And that's in that same prison in Solano.
Okay.
It's just, but the only thing, see, there's what it is. When it comes to the West Coast, there's not a lot of West Coast YouTubers. There's not a lot of West Coast YouTubers, and I probably was on the forefront of them, especially black ones, black West Coast YouTubers. So that seems to be like the only view. Like if I'm the only one telling the story, it might seem like that's the only viewpoint. But truthfully, there's all type of Southsiders. I mean, blacks be getting on Southsiders, Southsiders be getting on blacks, and a lot of times Southsiders always got the numbers. It's just I felt that it would be biased of me to always talk about how blacks was getting on Southside. I felt that would be biased and actually untrue because Southsiders getting on blacks, but they try to keep it to a minimal. Like blacks and Southsiders know, like if nobody wins, go to war. Nobody wins when the blacks and the Southsiders go on lockdown because then that means that the blacks we gotta depend on the Asians for help, and then the Southsiders gotta depend on the white boys for help. So and there's all type of variables for taking losses when you got to do that. I'm talking about go to the store to feed yourself. You might got to depend on the Asians because they out programming and going to school and work and stuff while we stuck in the cells. So and them is our allies. The others are our allies, and then the whites is the Southside allies. And then they got the border brothers too, because sometimes they separate the Paisas, which is border brothers, and the Southsiders. But at first they might lock them all down. But once they classify them and deem them as border brothers, then they let them come off a lockdown because a lot of times their politics is very different.
Okay. I mean, offhand, do you have a particular story about a riot with the Southsiders?
Yep. I'll tell you this. When we got to Solano during that same time, we was on lockdown with we was at war with the Southsiders too. Actually, no, we wasn't. When I got there, we was at war with the Northerners, and the Southsiders was programming, right? And then the Southsiders, people heard this story, but the Southsiders, like, they did a sneak attack diversion, right? Where they took off on the blacks, and while they took off on the OG blacks in front of the canteen, they was over there on the other side of the yard stabbing up their shot caller for whatever reason. Like, and I heard later they stabbed up their shot caller because he did not want to or give the order for the Southsiders to take off on the blacks for whatever reason. I didn't know. So when they took off on the OGs in front of the canteen, they hit Vine in the head with a can good. Bam! When they hit Vine in the head, Vine is from the Bay. When they hit him in the head with a can good, he take a seat on his pockets. It was over for him. So we was on a dip bar. We ran over to help assist the OGs over there in front of the canteen and got to getting on stuff right then and there. I'm talking about it was the pack of Southsiders that went to get the OGs in front of the canteen. They was a suicide squad because they knew they wasn't gonna make it. They knew they wasn't gonna make it about the pack. They just sent it. So they got devoured. So then we look up, right? But other parts on this is the thing, the truth about the riots. Other parts of the yard, the Southsiders was getting money though. There was some areas of the yard where the Southsiders was doing inflicted damage. But the big pack, I don't know. It's like they sent them over there with no weapons, no nut. Just take off on the first black you see. And that's exactly what they did. But it didn't go good. So then after that riot happened, now we into it with the Northerners and the Southsiders at the same time. Picture that. And that was 2006. And what's going on now in 2020? Peace between the North and the South. How far in the future was that? There was a rumor going around in 2006 that the Northerners and the Southerners were going to unite and they was going to be called La Raza. That was back in 2006. Fast forward now, that's what, 10, 14 years ago when I heard that. And I couldn't, and before then, I couldn't even fathom that. I couldn't even picture that. That wasn't, what? Together? And that caused a mass hysteria on the yard. Like on the yard, amongst the blacks, like we into it. We don't know if they're going to open these doors on accident. We don't know. So now now everybody's super on point. Everybody's super on guard. So we're wondering, like, is this shit real? And then we heard about the kite that came from the shoe that said blacks are no longer our allies. They are to be observed and treated as hostiles. So what? That means that alliance between the blacks and the Northerners is over, and then now the Southerners is attacking us. So it's like your enemy is my enemy is we friends type shit. So that allowed us to open our minds to the possibility of if if that was true, they forming the La Raza together against us. So that's how I got desensitized from the old way of thinking.
Okay.
So anyhow, so after that riot happened, then the Northerner with V, that happened. So then in 12 building, you had the homies Carl Webb and the homie Capone in that building right there. They would say, we tired of being victims. We tired, fuck that shit. So when they opened them doors in 12 building, they didn't even let it get to the yard. I'm talking about they got money in that building. They were beating them up all up and down the tier. That's just how it went. But that was like that them homies, they did that. They really, really did that. But they was like, fuck what everybody else is talking about. Fuck your peace, fuck all that. We didn't been took off on enough. And they did their stuff.
Okay. That's what's up. All right.
And,
So
hey, Mike, Solano prison was only a level 3. Coming from a level 4 to that pen, I was in more violent altercations in Solano than I was the whole 8 years I was level 4.
wow.
And I was in some shit level 4. But Solano, I got into more violent altercations in a shorter amount of time on both of the level 3 yards. Like I got attacked by the Southsiders on the other yard, and then I got attacked by the Southsiders on this yard, and then I got to with the Northerners on this yard, and then it was little skirmishes. Like it's like because a level 3 prison is known for having a lot of gang members, like a lot of young gang members. So therefore, it's always somebody young that's doing something stupid.
Okay. All right. Something else in the time we got left I want to talk about is SNY. Now I understood like back in the day, PC was for people like child molesters, people who were scared. But I hear
Yeah.
now PC it's like people, it's like hardcore because like people who may not be scared, they just don't want to be dealing with the politics. They'll go to PC, and then they got PC got their own gangs now. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, they got their own gangs. I don't know none. Only one I know of is Deuce 5, and then I heard Northern Riders and stuff, but I don't know their politics. But I know that when I went to Tracy and seen just how many there was, man, they was throwing up gang signs to me and shit that I was like, what the fuck is all that? I didn't know because they keep us separated in Tracy, and then what you said is actually could be true. I don't know. Like I'm sure there's people that go for child molestation and hiding and all that, and some people just check out, and some people just get tired of doing shit the way they've been doing it, and they like, all right, brothers, I'm out of here. They want to kick back and do easy time, but they got But I have heard because when Tracy every time the SNYs went to the yard went down. Guarantee you. Every time. And they go to yard like every 2 or 3 times a week. Every time they went outside, it was a riot. I mean, not a riot, but it was somebody getting their ass beat or stabbed in Tracy reception, fucking with them SNY.
Wow.
Matter of fact, the only time I ever seen a helicopter land on a yard in Tracy was SNYs.
Wow. Okay, so it'd be going down a lot on the SNY yard.
Yeah, they got a whole different mind frame altogether. And I remember I met a SNY in 2006, and he told me by 2012 by 2012 GPs was gonna be the new SNYs, and the SNYs was gonna be the new GP. And what did you know? He probably was off on the years, but he seen something coming when he told me because he was like, he said y'all GP numbers just fluctuate while the SNY numbers just keep growing. You keep growing with every ass beat over here and every foul ass case. They became a rest. SNY became a rest haven for people like that.
Wow. Okay. All right. So we got about like 5 minutes left. So I wanted to talk about a little bit, take a little different turn. So I know back in the past, you've been on Steve Wilkos, you've been on Divorce Court, your channel
Yeah.
is blowing up. So what can we look for in the future from Dirty Weather? What else you got coming down the pipe?
So let me tell you like the purpose of my channel, right?
Mhm.
I I understood like the power of brotherhood behind them walls. And
Okay.
the power of brotherhood extends like to the from the young to the youngest homies to the oldest homies. Cause once you've been behind them war, you've been in that battlefield, then you know what it means to be. You know what loyalty means. Loyalty
Mhm.
means like if this white boy comes and takes off, or the white boys jump us, it's just gonna be me and you. We might be from enemy hoods in Sacramento, but it's gonna be me and you against everybody.
Mhm.
And what happens is once you go that far with somebody, once you've had that type of feeling, like I know you ain't gonna let nothing happen to me, and I ain't gonna let nothing happen to you. You my dog, we work out together, we teach each other, we build each other, we mold each other. Once you have that, that means that me and you come up under the same G or the same OG inside, or a bunch of OGs that lace us all because we were the kids at one point. So it's each one teach one it's each one teach one with me always. So with my channel, everybody that came up under them type of teachings and groomings, I want them to have an outlet because not everybody that came out is doing good. And some people, I want some people to look at what I'm doing with my channel and see how I'm bringing all the homies together and be like, you know what? I can do this. Like I could create a platform just like Dirt did. And next thing you know, I'm creating hope for my homies that have been up against the circumstances that I've been up against. That's what the Dirty Nation is, and that's what the channel was designed for. And then it's also a place for people that can relate to prison or have people that are going through something that they can come and express themselves or seek or find some type of help, because the Dirty Nation is also a network too of people that network with each other too. It's like a LinkedIn Dirty Nation.
Right. Okay, that's what's up.
As far as interviews though, you're gonna start seeing a lot of unknown certified Bloods and Crips and everything, but most of them are going to be, for at least to the summer, most of the people that I interview are going to be from Sacramento or
Okay.
surrounding areas, or they've been a part of my life, and I can vouch for them. Like I don't want nobody I can't vouch for as when I do certain stuff. So it's like I'm in my city. I know everything going on in my city as far as like the G's, the reputable G's, and the people that I walk main lines with that got like 15 or 20 years in the system. They got a
Mhm.
story. That's what I'm gonna do. Not all the stories that I show are gonna be good stories. Like some of the older homies that is on drugs, and it's not a good look for them. But at the same time, they still my OGs. They still
Right.
my OGs. I didn't walk with my OGs, and they didn't been sitting there with a plate of crystal and a straw, passed out. And
Mhm.
you know, and I done walked up to him like, and pat him on the shoulder like, here you go. And my uncle, he on drugs, and I done walked up and gave him a bag of chips and a soda, like, come on, come back, man. So I'm that type of person. As far as my
Right.
heart goes, when it comes to helping the homies that needs to do something other than what they've been doing, man, I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in this, and to be able to create an avenue for us.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Well, there you have it, YouTube. Got a lot of good content to look for from the Dirty Weather 916. I hope you all enjoyed this interview. You can go check it out. Policy and Numbers Game Publishing, Dirty Weather 916. We might have to do this again sometime. So I appreciate your time, brother Dirt. I wish you the best in what you're doing and keep it coming.
Got you, man. I appreciate that, man. Shout out Dirty Nation. Gone.
Gone.